Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. We are glad you're with us. What is it like to become a pilot in your 40s and 50s? The challenges are unique for those of us in midlife, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences of being a midlife pilot. Join the Midlife Pilot community and listen in every week. We are not CFIs or particularly intelligent, so if you want to learn how to fly, talk to anyone else other than the hosts of a podcast. Even this intro was too challenging for us, and we used a robot to do it. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello and welcome to episode 186 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we share the experiences and challenges of flying in midlife. My name is Ben. I'm a commercially rated pilot based in the Atlanta metro area, and joining me this episode, as always, it's my friend Brian, who is based in the Nashville area, living on Music Row, just doing all kind of things, instructing and teaching and flying and spinning and rolling and just lighting it all up. Good evening, sir.
And that's before I even leave the house.
That's exactly.
By the way, I want to be, here's the thing, Ben, I've been trying to become as cool as you for so long. And I feel like you're always one step ahead, right? Like you've got the multi done and all that, and you're building up all these hours and doing all these great things. But you open up the show and you say, I'm a commercial rated pilot, instrument rated commercial pilot or whatever, based out of Atlanta. And then you get to me and you're like, and Brian flies a Cherokee.
Dude, that was pretty rude. Let's do a second take. Okay, and joining me tonight is a commercially rated, instrument rated, tailwheel rated, endorsed ground instructor extraordinaire.
All right, finally,
living in the heart of Music Row.
Finally,
with more initials after his pilot certificate than I'll ever dream of having. It's my friend Brian. How was that?
Part 107 holder. I'm good. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited about the show tonight. There's some great feedback, and I'm looking forward to the One Dull Geek rant. It's been a minute, so I'm very excited about that. And we're going to have our resident Andy Rooney doing his very best One Dull Geek rant. I love it. And so, yeah, very excited.
Very cool. Also joining us from the left coast, or as they say, the West Coast. He's a sport pilot extraordinaire based in Portland, Oregon. He flies a CTLS we like to call the Egg. Good evening, Ted. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. I am glad to be here. It was nice to catch up before the podcast started so we could figure out what's been going on and with each other. And now we can actually talk about our aviation fun on this one.
Yeah, I actually came up with a topic just before the show. We actually know what we're going to talk about. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
So I hope everybody that's listening to this had a great Father's Day. I do have to say, I had all three boys home this weekend. And, that makes my heart sing. But I did get this as a Father's Day. This is not going to help the visual, but maybe one of you two will read my shirt.
World's okayest pilot. 5 stars? 4 stars.
4 stars.
Something makes some decent landings every now and then.
Yeah, the font is gigantic.
It is gigantic. It is saying, hey, everybody, look at this.
Yes.
This guy's pretty average.
That thing is insane. That's awesome.
It is very awesome. So shout out to Adam and Noah and Evan for making a very special Father's Day. But did a little bit of flying this weekend. Went to this place called Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Took Terry and Evan up. We met up with the venerable aforementioned Brian Siskin and his lovely bride. And it was great to catch up with them. Very uneventful flight going both ways. And we'll hear more about Brian's adventures here in just a minute. But Ted wanted to also check in with you, see how things been going with you.
Oh, pretty good. I'm in a phase where there's not a lot of flying happening, and that's okay. Life gets in the way. And actually had to take care of my partner with some stuff. And,
nice.
It's like, and I'm talking about that because it's like, this happens, right? Like, we love aviation, but we also have lives. And we would like to prioritize aviation over everything.
Mhm.
That's not always the case.
Yeah.
So, life's good.
So, Brian, you've had an adventurous
Yeah.
week or so.
Yeah, we went to breakfast just the other day.
Yeah, I was
was
thinking
pretty wild.
something slightly more exciting than that.
By the way, it was fantastic to see you and Terry and Evan, and it was just really fun. It never ceases to amaze me how amazing it is to be a part of general aviation, to be able to do things like you texting me on a Friday night and saying, "Hey, what are you doing? You guys want to get brunch tomorrow morning?" Yes. Fly up, teleport here, and we go into town. And
I literally said to Terry on the flight back, I said to her literally, it's still not beyond me that I can't believe that we get to go to have brunch in Nashville and be back home in time for
a nap.
a nap. Yeah. It just like that we still have the capability of doing this. It's not lost on me.
Yeah, but that was a really good hang, and it was starting to get a little toasty that day. So I'm glad you got out of there. I appreciated your comment about how your airplane is heated air conditioned. It's heated in the winter, or no, heated in the summer and air conditioned in the winter.
Yes. I saw it on YouTube, so I stole it from somebody, but it said, my airplane's got both heating and air conditioning. Heats you in the summer and cools you in the winter.
That's so good. Well, it was great. And yeah, I had an interesting day this past week. I've been meaning to do this actually for quite a while. A couple of years ago, even, I was trying to schedule with Catherine Cavagnaro down in Sewanee to do spin training. And this is before I was thinking of becoming a CFI. I just wanted to do it. I just wanted to go that far outside of the envelope and just wanted to, learn from her. Didn't work out. That was when I was trying to schedule that back then. It was in the wintertime and it was just increasingly never possible. So I kind of tabled that, and it's come back up because that's one of the next things I needed to accomplish. And so reached out to Justin Tidwell of Flywell Aviation, based out of Bowling Green, the school there. He's the owner of that school. He's got a super decathlon, and it's a lot like the Cherokee 180, only in the sense that it has the same engine, and then everything else is different. But what a cool plane, by the way. I had never flown a super decathlon before. I had never even flown a mediocre decathlon before. And so it was a really cool experience. But yeah, we put on parachutes and went on up and did spin training, and mostly focused on spin entries and recovering from them, because while it's great to put yourself on a 5 rotation spin and that's all good and fine, if you're a CFI and things have gone that far, then you probably haven't done what you're supposed to be doing, I would imagine, up to that point to remedy the situation. But it was fascinating. It was really cool. I don't know. I could probably talk about it for a whole episode here, but I don't want to. But it was I'll just give a couple of things of note. One, I'm not a person that gets motion sick ever in an airplane or a boat or anything like that. I can read in the car, whatever. Got a little queasy. It was definitely something where I recognized it early. And the cool thing is, you're just kind of doing this one thing. So to take a break and just go fly around for a minute, fly straight and level or whatever, it's not a big deal. So I kind of helped myself by getting in front of it a little bit and saying, okay, I think I'm good. But of course, I was kind of saving my energy too, because I knew that if we got finished with all the curriculum, then we would be doing some aileron rolls. And I just haven't been upside down in an airplane yet. And so now I have. And that was amazing. It seemed so easy. You're thinking, well, why can't I do this in a Cherokee?
Did he let you do the controls for the roll?
I did everything. I mean,
he just gave you instruction how to do it.
Yeah, he was really, of course he was on, he's right there.
Yeah.
But that's what I enjoyed about the lesson more than anything, is that he was so hands off. So, I mean, I was taxiing, I was taking off. It's tail wheel time for me, so I really enjoyed being in a tail wheel again. A little bit different for me to have the stick in the right hand and the throttle with the left. I have a little bit of time in a J-3 Cub, but that is a little different. But anyway, yeah, taxi, took off, got used to the plane out on the climb, did some Dutch rolls, got everything kind of situated. We climbed up to about 8,000 feet and then started doing the things. And he was basically like, do you want me to demonstrate, a bunch? I was like, well, I don't know. He's like, why don't you just try it? Just all you got. And really all you're doing is going up into an insanely high nose up, power off stall, and then left aileron, left rudder, whatever, pulling back, and then left rudder to the floor, and then you just go woo, and you go
basically doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, the wrong thing, really hard. So we went through a few of those. I mean, the first one was a little bit of a holy moment because you just haven't, you've seen a lot of sight pictures, at least up to this point. But that was a unique point of view because you're not just looking straight down. You're the tail is so far up behind and then behind that you're looking up at a 45 degree angle to see straight down. You're so far past straight down in that phase. So it was fascinating just to feel the aerodynamics of it, the body sensations of it. It was, I don't know. It was a lot. It was a lot. But one thing I thought was really interesting is that when you're doing upset recovery, and here's the thing, I'm not a CFI. If I say something wrong or I misinterpreted something, please correct me. But one of the challenges I had when I was in instrument training was that I learned that I never really learned upset or unusual attitudes correctly in private. I was sort of combining all of the movements, the corrections, as opposed to really in an ordered fashion, getting the nose right, then leveling, all of that. So my tendency was to kind of put the nose down while also leveling the wings, which can be problematic in many situations. So in this scenario, you have the PAIR acronym that everybody knows, but you're not stepping through the correction, okay, well, let's see here. We've got, let's pull the power and okay, let's get the ailerons. It's happening so fast and you're just doing everything at once. And so I was thinking about things initially about, okay, I got to make sure I do the steps right. But then when you're being faced with it in reality, you're just doing whatever needs to get done, but you just need to be using the right controls to do it and not aggravating the situation. And I felt very proud, I guess, because he said that he was kind of puzzled in a way. He was sort of, I don't know, man, like, you've got this. I don't know. He was throwing, he's behind me. I can't see what he's doing, right? But he's like, I'm the student, and it might be an unusual attitude or an upset, or it might be a full-on spin entry. It might be this to the left. It might be to the right. It might be a combination of getting wobbly and then going over this way and then going over that way. And he would just keep throwing these scenarios at me that I would just fix over and over again, hence the queasiness. But anyway, in every other aspect of aviation training, I felt like I was a late bloomer, slow developer, stunted person. And it took me a minute to learn things that other people, I feel like, learned faster. And this is, of course, right, in instrument training and all this, in the initial offing of instrument training, I was the worst pilot known to man. And then you put me in a plane I've never flown and start throwing me into spin entries. And I'm like, oh, this is great. I got this, So it was just a unique it was a unique experience, but I had got a good wheel landing in on the way back in. I hadn't landed in a while in a tail wheel, and that felt really good. This is the last thing I'll say is that I was definitely oscillating on the rollout after the landing while I'm still up on the mains, and got into a pilot induced series of corrections.
Yeah.
And I just realized after, I was joking with him because I said, this plane is a 2006. This is the newest airplane that I've ever flown. And the rigging and everything is so tight and it's so responsive. I've just been driving old Buicks, in the sky, where you can just be going down the highway and chasing the steering wheel all around and it doesn't do anything. So
does it have...
AJ asked, did you get the decathlon shimmy?
Sure, I did. Yeah, I did. Luckily, I didn't. Yeah.
And then the ugly cub, I can never get that name right. He said, did simply letting go of the stick terminate the spin?
That's a good question. I want to say that
the same reaction as a trainer plane, right? Does it have the reaction where it's like, if you just let go, it will correct itself?
I never really tested just not doing a lot of things to just see what would happen. I was so interested in stopping the rotation as quickly as possible. And also the thing that was a challenge was not getting into a secondary stall coming out of it. And I have not pulled that much. I haven't pulled that much G's in an airplane before. I haven't pulled anything close to anything like that. But you've really got to, we're thinking about it from, we're loaded, the scenario is that we're low to the ground. You know what I mean? So you can't take your time, but so you're balancing out, pulling back and really loading the wing, but trying not to get to the point where you're creating a secondary stall. So it's a strange balance. But anyway, and then of course my eyes, if I looked inside for any kind of guidance, there wasn't an attitude indicator in the plane. There's no DG in the plane. There's none of that stuff. So I don't know. It was really cool. I highly recommend it for anybody at any level, because I think that psychologically going through that, just to have been through it, then this is the envelope. This is the edge and then beyond. And this is totally recoverable as long as you're not base to final and doing things dumb low to the ground. But anyway, it was awesome. So I really enjoyed the student aspect of it, because he was making me walk through, okay, well, show me how to do a power off, or tell me how to do a power on stall while I do it. And then, it kind of reminded me of the Bill Burr cartoon where he's talking about doing the helicopter tours, the whole bit. This is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. But when he's emulating that he's the young pilot that's inherited the helicopter business, and he's giving this guy a tour, and he's like, we got 30 beaches over here to the left and whatever. And wait, what are you doing? What are you doing? The guy's opening the door to go jump out. But it felt a little bit like that. Like I was trying to narrate to him something kind of normative, and he's in the back just creating all kinds of, oh gosh, what is that? But that's realistic, I would imagine, right? You got to be ready for anything. So I have much more appreciation for CFIs now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we're going to move on. We got a couple of feedbacks in the inbox this past week, so we'll each take one. And we want to encourage everybody to send us your thoughts, comments, reviews, whatever you feel like. Our email is midlifepilotpodcast@gmail.com, or you can just go to our website and let us know what you're thinking. So I'll start off the review, if that's all right with you guys.
Yeah.
This comes to us from a guy named Mike R., who's also known as the Tuba Guy, musician, it would appear. He writes, I'm a 58-year-old Boston-based 300-plus hour PPL with an IFR rating. Still not out of the killing zone, but getting close. I haven't flown in 13 years since my youngest daughter was born. With my second daughter now committed to Syracuse University, congratulations, The calling came back loud and clear. I stumbled upon your podcast and have really enjoyed getting to know you all as I get everything in order to get back in the air. I just attended an AOPA Rusty seminar, and I'm sorting out my FAA medical.
Rusty pilot seminar.
Oh, what did I say? Rusty.
You said a rusty seminar.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to let that one sit. That could go a lot of different directions.
No shade on AOPA.
No shade on AOP. No. A recent discovery of CAD, which is coronary artery disorder or disease,
Yeah.
I believe, will most likely require special issuance. I do fall within the basic med time frame with my previous Class 3 medical, but this discovery complicates things a bit. Not impossible, but careful navigation is essential. I'm a musician with the Boston Symphony Orchestra and the Boston Pops.
Cool.
Very cool. Yeah. And I'm on the faculty at a few local universities. Episode 141 resonated with me in a big way. Did you know many engineers at NASA are also musicians? There you go. I have time in Warriors, Arrows, 172s, 182s, and Diamond DA40s, and I'm planning to get into a flying club or partnership in the area. Well on my way to getting caught up. Thanks for the assist. Fantastic show. I hope to meet y'all in person. Cheers to Tuba Guy.
Oh, I think I know what he plays. Yeah.
I think he plays the tuba.
Episode 141 was with Banjo Pilot, and we talked about how everybody's creative in some way. And CAD, coronary artery disease, you can get a third-class medical with it. Getting higher than that is difficult. You can definitely do it on basic med or on sport pilot. This is the joy of being older, is these are the things we have to think about. There aren't many people at age 21 thinking about coronary artery disease, I don't think. So I'm glad to hear this. It's always nice to have somebody write in and know where they're at in their journey. I think you're probably in the killing zone more than you think if you haven't flown in 13 years. I think that takes away a bunch of the hours, or they increases the risk. And as Wendell Geek says, do we ever get out of the killing zone? Fair.
Yeah.
I'll read the next one here. I get to pick these, and I picked the shortest one. So this is from Jason S. He said, after listening to episode 70, Art of the Tail Wheel, I decided to follow in Brian's footsteps and reach out to local CFI Ben at Drift Aviation and see what this tail wheel flying is all about. After a few trips in the J-3 Cub, I'm hooked. I mentioned the podcast to Ben, and he spoke very highly of you, Brian. Hopefully our paths cross one day in this crazy middle Tennessee aviation journey. Love the show, Jason.
That is awesome. You know, I think when you meet really good people that are good instructors that run good schools, you just that's the kind of thing you want to see happen. Yep. If you put a good word out, or speak highly of them. So I will say again, if you're looking to do tailwheel, go see Ben at Drift Aviation. And there's something about instructors that are doing it for the love of doing it that really means something. So that's awesome, Jason. I'm super excited for your. One thing I was wondering is is it for a tailwheel endorsement, or is he doing primary training? Either way, J-3 Cub, send it. Yeah, buddy. That's awesome. Yeah, we'll find. I'm sure we'll run into each other around here somewhere.
Wow.
Yeah, it sounds like he was just chasing the endorsement because he was following your footsteps. They were short footsteps, but they were.
But it's not. It's not that what you said is very funny. It's your delivery was so good and so deadpan.
Yes.
It was. My wife and I have been going back and watching a lot of Carl Pilkington and Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
Just having conversations about whatever, science or just anything. And it felt a little bit like that. I felt a little bit like Carl Pilkington there for a second when he talks about Carl's head big looking like an egg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. One more for you to read, Brian, from Cassie G.
Cassie G. All right. She says, hi, I started listening to your podcast when I started my private pilot license Yes. In October of 2023, I'm so happy to say that I'm finally a private pilot. All right. Well done. I don't even have words to tell you how thankful I am for your words of encouragement, humor, and wisdom. I can count on one hand the pilots that I personally know, so I heavily rely on your podcast for my aviation friend fix every week. Your episodes always seem to be perfectly timed and relevant for what I'm experiencing, and I truly appreciate you all. I was born and raised in the great Northwest, Kelso, Washington, and headed back for a month this summer from the East Coast, Charlotte, North Carolina. And I would love to fly while I'm out there. I'm wondering if Ted has any connections or recommendations for me to go up while I'm out there. Thanks for everything. And before you reply, Ted, I just want to say this is the kind of feedback where it makes it all worth it. All the time that we put into phoning in this podcast. No, all the time that we put into this, doing this and bringing it together, and the reason why it happened in the first place, and how we've all benefited from ourselves, and how we extend that outward, and just the whole thing, the whole mission of this podcast is expressed ultimately in that one sentence of saying, I don't have a lot of pilot friends, and so I heavily rely on your podcast for my aviation friend fix. That is what it is all about. So thank you for that.
I've got to say the comments are blowing up here. Checkmate Barry said she needs to be in Discord. Ugly Cub, who is north of her, said I'm her Huckleberry, might get a nice ride in a non-tail wheel Cub. Wendy spoke up and said send her my way. So we've got lots of connections for you. If you drive down to the Portland area, it's 30 minutes supposedly. It's much longer, but they advertise it as 30 minutes away. We can all meet up. It would be kind of fun.
That would be a lot of fun.
Cassie's going to be like, while I appreciate your invite, and I do have a very few pilot friends, I'm not sure I'm ready to have 30 pilot friends.
Yeah, exactly. But what she said is so true, which was, this is the problem that we had in training was, wow, how do I get to know people around here? How do I get to know people that are older than 23 that are at the airport? And how do I find somebody who's going through the same struggles that I am? And that's kind of it's kind of the genesis of this whole thing. So thanks, Brian.
What I want to know is she said, so your episodes always seem to be perfectly timed and relevant for what I'm experiencing. Which one of you two are spying on her? I mean, how did that come about?
Yeah.
I'm glad that it worked out.
Well, she's in Wendell Geek's backyard, so
there we go.
I'm not saying who it was.
Yeah,
just saying.
Of course, that's Elliot's backyard too. So
this is true. Yeah,
don't put it past him either. But
definitely
very cool. Thanks for sending the feedback in, Brian. Why don't you take us into the belly scrub?
I'm going to do a super abbreviated belly scrub, but yes, you can join our Patreon community and help us keep the Midlife Pilot podcast ad-free. Your support makes this show possible, and every membership level gets you into our incredibly active Discord communities. And Ted, I'm looking forward to your highlight reel for that. For everything Midlife Pilot Podcast, just support us on Patreon, send feedback, grab some merch, check out event info, read our blog, and more. Visit midlifepilotpodcast.com. And if you're enjoying the show, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it on the air. And hit subscribe or follow in your podcast app so you never miss an episode. It really helps the other midlifers find us. And I want to just remind people again that we have the second edition of the Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Midlife Pilot live on midlifepilotpodcast.com. It's just a PDF. You don't have to even give an email address to get it. You just download it. It's pretty darn rich, and you can send it you can have it on the ready for anybody that we all get the question of, well, what if I wanted to do that? How would I go about that? And so you too can create other misguided midlife people to then commune with. So check it out on the website.
You can pass on the addiction.
That's right.
In Patreon world, I want to thank the people who have joined us there. At Landomatic level, we have Adrian S. We've seen Adrian S, I believe, has the Long EZ, and I was glad to see a picture of that. At Hershey Bar, we have Carl R. At the Beast Stall Kit level, we have Anthony V. and Jason S. So thank you all
Jason
for
S.
joining
that
us.
sent the feedback for the tail wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. I kind of rounded up some of the accomplishments that I saw this week. Dev Cannon, who is in the chat here, said that he gave his first block of ground instruction. So congrats for being legally speaking, you're now an instructor, right? Or an experienced instructor at this point.
Yeah.
Zach M. got his high performance endorsement. He was in a Cherokee 6. He's doing that because he's working on building his RV14 and he'll need it for that. Zach's down by a Tango 82, remember?
Oh, yeah. And Zach made a good point.
Yeah.
It's like he's pretty much the same airplane, right?
Yes. Same engine, nothing else. Just the engine. Yeah. Rich got checked out in 172 as a sport pilot. So he's not limited to just a single Jabiru now. Jabiru's, the engines spin the opposite direction because they're from Australia and everything is backward there, I think. And this is the joy of being a sport pilot. And he was joking about being able to carry an actual passenger and fuel, not just one of those things. So congrats, Rich. It's nice to see the Mosaic world expanding. I like seeing those accomplishments come in. I actually know that friend of the show, Dominic, was out in a 172 on Friday. And
oh, wow.
It was just fun to hear his tales of that. So, yeah.
That's another world for him.
Yeah, exactly.
So tonight we wanted to talk about a highly charged political subject. No, I'm just kidding. It's
I don't know.
It's getting the $300 hamburger instead of the $100 hamburger. It's basically how we manage to fly when fuel costs are extraordinarily high during this time.
Yeah.
And it's, we've got a couple of ideas that we'll go around and share, but it resonated with me because when I retired, a lot of my focus was time building. I have access to an airplane, but, even before the fuel spiked, I was still looking for ways to lower my overall spend on flying the airplane.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this kind of is a good opportunity. You don't have to be a time builder to be in this position. It's just have to deal with high costs.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a pilot with a spinny thing or not, either way, if you're using fuel, you're feeling it right now. And I was looking back at just some data to see how much of it is in the more recent, and then how much of it has just been this long, protracted arc of algorithmic increase. And it's been going up for a good while. I mean, all of us, Ted, I'm sure you remember way back, when you first started training about fuel costs. I think back to the, Henry Ford Model T era of 2021 when I did my training. Things were a lot less expensive. And the point of all this is not to gripe about it. It is what it is. And how we got here is not what we're going to talk about. What we're going to talk about is, what does this mean now? What?
Yeah.
Well, you have so much, you only have so many resources, cash for fuel. And so then it's really forcing, I think, all of us in some way, and I'm not sure that we've really shared this more than, I think we should have been sharing this a little bit more earlier, but there's a redistribution of your flying attention, energy, effort that you have to redistribute within that budget amount. And there's different consequences for ways that you're applying that energy. Ted, this conversation doesn't even apply to you because you can just, I don't know, you keep all your fuel.
When you're getting 35 miles to the gallon,
yeah,
it really amortizes the cost of the
when
fuel.
When you store your fuel, when you store your fuel and just the sump is enough to just, to get you around for a while.
Exactly.
But generally speaking, I'm sure it hurts all around, and even the MoGas pursuit and all of that, you've got to go further to get it sometimes or whatever. So I just kind of wanted to start with making the point, and I wanted to see what you guys think. Have you been changing how you've been flying a little bit now that the $100 hamburger is really a $300 hamburger? What does that mean? And how does that affect your currency, your proficiency? And are you having to redistribute how you lay out your flying to apply more of it towards proficiency and currency versus the luxury of a $300 hamburger?
I think it's a great question. And Dev had made a comment. I think you had it up there just a minute ago. It's cheaper to buy gas than to be outside of proficiency. For me, it's just changed my perspective. For me, when I was going to go for a night proficiency flight, it wasn't a second thought. I would just go up and hop in the plane and go knock it out, fly to a couple of airports. Now I'm going to find a way to maybe go up with somebody and split the cost.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's about the most efficient way. It was what I was doing when I started to time build. I was racking up a lot of hours, but I was paying for them all. And I saw it hit my budget really, really hard. So I became a lot more amenable, I would really start casting out a net. Who wants to go fly tonight? And if everybody was busy, then I wouldn't fly.
And that's what I'm saying. Like that's really the difference. So then what does that mean, right?
Yes. Yeah. Now I would not let myself go too long without efficiency, obviously. But it is something more that I do think about, especially in my current situation. I'm very mindful of the cost. I was always mindful of the cost, but I'm watching it with a magnifying glass instead of just looking at it from afar. And it's the best way though is to split the cost with somebody. You can have somebody on with a safety pilot. I was talking with some folks earlier this evening at a friend's retirement party, and I was like, anybody need a ride over to Birmingham, especially at night? Let me know. I'm happy to go so we can go hang out and split the cost and whatever. So
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I changed my mental model of how I fly last year, about a year ago actually. Instead of aiming for a higher speed, I brought my speeds back a little bit, and it totally changes how much fuel burn you have. And you can come back 10% and you're going to save 20% on your fuel burn. That's a huge difference. It's a huge difference when you're flying long distances, and even if you're not, it really helps. Now there is, let's read what Wendy here says. She said, "And friends, the training costs are escalating. Fuel surcharges, rental costs increasing. If you're renting a plane, it's $1,000 hamburger." So this is where you have to think about both sides of that. Slow down, save on the fuel burn. You're renting a plane, you're paying by the hobs, and you're probably paying wet. And so you're not paying for fuel. So it does change the math a little bit on that. But those are the things to keep in mind, is the difference between pinning it and bringing it back a bit.
Especially if you got a tailwind.
Yeah.
Let it ride. Pull it back.
Yeah.
I feel like in my plane, even in a headwind, there's a big difference. If I'm at 2,500 RPM and 25 inches of manifold pressure, I'm 18 gallons an hour. I'm going to lose 5 knots if I pull it back to 23 squared. And over an hour period, that 5 knots is not making that big of a difference, but my fuel burn is almost 4 gallons an hour lower.
Yes.
And I'm giving up 10 minutes. So to me, pull it back it adds up, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I wish that it were not this way, but here we are. It's tough. It's tough. I have a plan to go to West Texas here in about a week. And so what that's meant is not flying a lot up to that point, because you're flying 2,000 miles, it's going to be a lot, and you're going to feel that. So it does mean that under more normal circumstances, I would be probably flying more leading up to a trip and kind of preparation for the trip. But in this case, measuring that a little bit And
Hey, Ted, Brian's suitcase for this trip is going to be like a Ziploc bag with one pair of underwear, a T-shirt, a toothbrush, and toothpaste, and that's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just saving on as much weight as he possibly can.
Yeah. No,
look like
I get that though, which is out of prison. Yeah. I get that though, because it's like instead of adding on the hours of the trip to West Texas onto the hours that you're flying normally, you're basically subtracting that trip from your normal flying hours. So if you normally fly 10 hours a week and it's a 10-hour flight over there, like, well, I guess I'm not flying this week.
Right.
And kind of using that as the budget for it.
Yeah.
What do you think, though? And Brian, you made a comment in our notes for those, especially those that are training and that are either student pilots or recently PPLs. I do feel like there's value in doing the short hops, doing some shorter trips, maybe just keeping the proficiency up and keeping it within budget, as opposed to folks that have built up a little bit more muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying you don't need to stay proficient, but that proficiency comes back a lot quicker for somebody who's been flying longer and has built up the muscle memory. But what do you say to those people that are newer students or newer private pilots that are in this situation?
So I would say, instead of maybe going to, so for instance, if you're in Nashville here, you're at John Toon, you're going to want to do things like fly an hour west and go to Lambert's, home of the throwed roll, and get bread thrown at you. And it's really an awesome trip. But if you're still really learning, flying out to a remote, untowered airfield that's an hour away, yes, more fun, and fun should be a part of it. And that is a we've talked about that a lot. But if you're trying to keep up your proficiency, or you're trying to wring more experience for less, and say that you're based here, well, B&A is right next door. Go land at a Charlie. Go do ground operations at busy airports. Go put yourself in challenging situations, even just with ground operations and airspace, and do things that maybe get yourself out. Even more reason to do things you're not just used to doing.
Yeah, I think there's a strong argument to avoid flying an hour somewhere and practicing landing when you could do that at home or at an airport that's 10 miles away. That might be a difference I'd make if I was in training, for sure. There's certainly value, but that's why you do a cross country that's required, which I think covers that.
Yeah. And then we're talking about here too, it's spend the money when you've got the person that you care about in the seat next to you or something, and still have those, still creates memories, right? Still just, I remember when my dad used to take me 3 miles to the next airport over. Me and my dad, we would always fly 6 nautical miles. It was really... It's really memorable.
He pulled it back so far, the engine wasn't even running half the time.
And then he would just get out and curse at this large white tank with an ATM machine looking thing in front of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's, for most of us midlifers, for a lot of us, it's about just being more judicious with how we're spending the money. Not saying don't spend it at all, but when these prices, I remember McCollum 2 weeks ago was $8.85 a gallon. Whew. And I remember it was last week, we were coming back from New Smyrna Beach, and I'm like, well, do I top off here at $8.78 a gallon and then top off again at, there was both really, really high. And, it's just, I could have gone, stopped halfway and topped off at maybe $5 a gallon. We just needed to get back home and beat the storms. But that's, a decision we made. But that's something else. If you're in a Delta or Charlie, you're going to pay elevated expenses make the extra effort. And if you're not renting, if you own the plane, go to that neighboring small town airport that has cheaper gas and top off there.
And needs your attention and money anyway. Yeah. So there's that. Also, Ted, you have a saying that's on one of our top selling T-shirts.
Yeah, it's always fuel. It seems to be coming to that now, thinking about the prices.
Right. This is a safety thing, right? There's a point where you go, okay, how many people are starting to kind of risk it for the biscuit? You know, it's like,
But I've got to say, kind of in the idea of just go out and fly smaller amounts to stay proficient is fair. I do have to say that I think that most pilots are good at doing that. Just banging out laps in the pattern every once in a while to stay proficient in a plane, especially when you rent a plane. Think about how many people you see that are leaving the pattern and doing cross countries, or packing the plane and leaving and doing that. It doesn't happen as much as it seems. And we've all thought that when you think about the difference between how many flights you thought you'd be doing alone versus with your family in the plane.
Yeah.
So I think you need to have that in the back of your mind of make sure that you're doing short proficiency flights for a reason, which is to be ready for that big trip that you're going to take. But don't forget that that's the goal of it. Don't get in this habit where it's like, oh, I've flown 5 years and all I've done is banged it out in the pattern or gone to the next airport over for pancakes, which is way too much what GA seems to be.
Yeah. Well, also, you know, you got to get up early, get out. You know, it's summertime, beat the heat, get up before anybody else is flying. There's not as much traffic. You're not going to get extended as many times on downwind. You're not going to be number 4 for takeoff, sitting there sweltering and burning gas, you know. So that's the other thing, you know, just there's this thing called morning. You should check it out, right?
Not familiar. Can you expand a little further?
One old geek says, at $8.85 a gallon, Brian, do the tanks in the back of my car look better now?
No, I had to process that for a bit because I was like, does he have extra tanks in his car? And I realized that he's talking about gas cans to take to his plane.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's paying $4.30 a gallon for his Mo gas.
Yeah, I find that it's really dependent on where you are regionally. In the West, there's not as much savings from flying with Mo gas. It ends up being roughly the same price, within 10%, let's say, where Mark has always had that, where it's always been 25 to 50% of the price of Avgas. And there's regional reasons for that. You can also see that when people talk about gas prices and the difference of the prices in California versus Iowa. Same sort of issues. But there's still great advantages to running MoGas.
One other thing that I thought of as well, if there is a proficiency area, and maybe that proficiency is just flying a cross-country flight, maybe look on either your ForeFlight or your Garmin Pilot and see who's got the cheapest fuel that's 50 miles away, and take that opportunity to top off, at a lower cost. There again, if you can take a friend up with you and, split time on the stick, or, there's ways to cut into the higher prices.
I will say too that you can get on Amazon, you can get a battery powered siphon for like $15. That's really high power and fast. And you could, if you're just crafty enough and you just make your way around the airport, I mean,
are you saying this is the advantage of a low wing? Is that you're going to go to every high wing plane and siphon out?
I think it goes the other way around. How much easier? Yeah, you don't need a ladder to siphon out the low wings.
True. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's going to be bad. Things are going to get, if things get beyond, well beyond $10 a gallon, you're going to start seeing locking gas caps on Cherokee 140s and stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like all of a sudden you can have what is it called? The club, get the club for your plane and everything.
Yeah. So a couple other things. One is, I know a lot of people are thinking about going from renting to being partial owners in a plane. And this is one of the reasons that it's really important whether you're flying wet or dry on your fuel. If you're flying and you're being priced for dry, you have that advantage of it rewards you for flying efficiently rather than full rental power.
Yeah.
So that's something you can think about if you're looking to get into partial ownership of a plane.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other thing I thought of is, when you're looking for somewhere else, maybe nearby or not too far away, to go to your cross country, please look into camping. It is so much fun. Load up a little bit of gear, go find a really rural airport, just go camp overnight at the field, leave in the morning, go find somewhere for breakfast and go home. It doesn't cost much money. It's a fun adventure. You go to these really rural fields. I'll tell you, don't set up a tent or sleep underneath the rotating light for the field. That thing is so bright all night. You'll regret it.
And you'll be proud, Ted. I actually have started looking at purchasing a new tent.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Because I cannot find any accommodations at Oshkosh and may have to make my own. So,
yeah.
Crazy time.
Well, you don't have to like it either, right? But it's an option. And always having that as the option of, like, you want to go to Osh, you'd rather have accommodations, but if not, you can always camp. You don't have to enjoy it.
Very cool. Well, I think it's been a great discussion. I do believe, to wrap this one up, we should have a One Dull Geek rant. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I had forgotten about this, and so we should have played it last week. We were talking about tie downs last week, and we should have played it then. But we are not organized, and we are not professionals. So we have a great rant right now. Here we go.
Hi, Ben, Brian, and Ted. I'd like a word. And today it's run-up, or more specifically, run-up areas. I know full well that the default place to conduct a run-up is holding short of your departure runway. But I hate that area for run-ups. I'm constantly thinking that the person behind me is annoyed. They're turbine-powered and don't need a run-up, or they knew where the designated run-up location is at this airport. I'm just sitting there staring at the guy behind me in a citation, imagining him screaming at his co-pilot, or maybe even nobody, about the piston peasant blocking his access to the runway. I'm checking my magnetos. This guy's checking how much my 1800 RPM drop is costing his corporation. Sometimes at towered airports, when I'm on an IFR flight plan and taxiing to the runway, ground will call up and ask, "Are you going to be ready upon reaching?" When I answer no, I need to do a run-up, I know what's coming. They've been in contact with approach control coordinating my release. The moment I say I need more time, I can hear the collective sigh of a government agency over the radio. I just threw a wrench in their plan. They're handling hundreds of airplanes already in the air, and my response just reset their chessboard. What they say is, hold short, we're waiting on your release. But what that means is welcome to the penalty box. 2 to 20 minutes for having a piston engine but not being smart enough to figure out where to run it up. Pray we don't forget about you. Meanwhile, the people behind me who are listening to the entire conversation are thinking, what a moron. He should have done his run-up at the obvious place so that we could both get out faster. Except that's the thing. Where is the run-up area at this airport? Is there one? Did they build an airport and just forget? You're telling me we can pave 7,000 feet of asphalt, install 3 different layers of perimeter fencing to keep out stray deer, but we can't paint a giant square on the ground that says park your vibrating tin can here for 3 minutes so your engine doesn't quit over a neighborhood? Ben flies out of McCollum Airport, Romeo, Yankee, Yankee, and on the taxiway to runway 27, there's a little cutout where you can perform a run-up. And the very first time I flew out of RYY, it was very convenient that Ben could tell me about this. Otherwise, I'd have to have been that idiot that asks around where I should complete my run-up. The few times I've flown out of RYY, I've always departed runway 27. I have no idea where I'd do my run-up if I were departing runway 9. I'm guessing Ben will enlighten us after this rant is over, especially now that I've basically forced his hand. And Ben doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would react to my saying this and spitefully not share the information. That's more the kind of thing I would do, because Ben is a functioning member of society. My general default is to look for some corner of the ramp that backs up to nothing, go over there and do my run-up. But sometimes this fails when there's no area on the ramp that backs up to nothing. So in that case, I go to the end of the runway. Although there are some runways where that doesn't work either. I'm thinking of one of the early MPP meetups where there was a daycare at the end of the runway. I'm sure they would have loved the reaction the small children would have to that much wind and noise. I'd like to make it mandatory that every FAA airport diagram note the run-up area. It doesn't seem like much to ask given that they already show lots of information that's mostly useless at small GA airplanes. They have a space to tell me the pavement classification rating. Why do I need to know that? My Cherokee 235 weighs about as much as a Honda Civic. I am not landing a fully loaded 777. I don't care if the asphalt can handle a nuclear submarine. I just want to know where I can spin my propeller without throwing rocks at a Cessna 150. Give us a little box on the map. Just a little shaded square. It takes less than a drop of ink. No? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your obsessing over the multiple definitions of night. Okay, thanks.
Oh my God, multiple obsession of definition of night. That might need to be a t-shirt.
There was another t-shirt in there. Did you hear it? We have to do this one for sure. I think it's going to be our top selling Piston Peasant.
Oh,
that is an amazing shirt.
But then we need to have like authored by Wendell Geek. We need to give him credit for that. I believe.
Definitely. Geek Edition.
Geek Edition.
Thank you so much for that, Mark. That was excellent. And it really is. There's so many things like that you just have to figure out that don't really make a lot of sense, and you just accept it. It's a very you got hot spots. You got all these. You've got EMAS. I know that this is EMAS over here. This displaced threshold, whatever. I know all these things. But hey, question. I need to run up. Where do you do that? And it's really interesting how it's just not very common to have a good idea. You just kind of part of the skill of going to a new airport is just watching what everybody else is doing and figuring out how to just fall in line.
Let's hit Echo Charlie's, our friend Elliot, who flies a very large corporate jet. He says, "Allow me to speak on behalf of my fellow Jet A brethren. We aren't mad at you. We've had to do run-ups too. We're only impatient if we have a void time, and if you're in our way, it isn't your fault." And I think that's actually very insightful to hear. The one thing that I wanted to say is I kind of agree with your nervousness about wearing to do run-ups. To answer your question, at Romeo Yankee Yankee, there is no run-up pad at the end of runway 9. If you want to use a run-up pad, then you can go to the normal one. But otherwise, most people do the run-up on the taxiway. They'll turn their plane in such a way that they're not blasting the person behind them. And I find myself doing that at most airports. And I'm not shy about asking the tower or the ground, whoever I'm talking with, if there's a run-up area that they like for us to go to.
That's the thing, right? Just you got to ask, If you got to ask, you got to ask. If you got to hold up somebody, and sometimes you just have to hold up somebody, but just do your best. That's all you can do.
It's also, forgiveness and permission and that whole thing. At my home airport, the heavy metal parking lot of where the low rent hangars are, where I'm at. Basically, you come out of the taxiway and you're at the takeoff for the runway at your one end of it. And so just do my run up right there, right before I cross over into the controlled area. And I don't know where it's supposed to be done otherwise, but I make sure there's nobody behind me, or hope there's nobody behind me, and do my run up right there, because there aren't many options here. So somebody just do it.
This dovetails nicely into the little plug that I got to get. I just want to say thanks to everybody for being so excited about this course that I put together that I mentioned at the end of last week's show. It's been really amazing to see the response that it's gotten. And I've only mentioned it here so far. I haven't really been talking about it elsewhere. So apparently people listen to the podcast, guys. So watch what you say. But no, so you can check it out at makesmallcorrections.com. Makesmallcorrections.com. And it really is collecting all of those insights, all of those pieces of wisdom. And by the way, shout out to our friend pilot Jerry. We had the pleasure of having dinner with him last night here in Nashville. He's down from New York. And then what did we do? We went to an Italian place and got pizza, but it was it was a fantastic hang, such a good time. And, he's been flying for, he got his private about 15 years ago, he said, and we're all still figuring these things out.
Yep.
We're talking a lot about this. So anyway, for all those that have reserved a seat for the next cohort of the live online class, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome. And we're just going to keep building this thing because there's just a lot of knowledge and nuggets of wisdom and experience to collect. And so if you have anything where, that kind of goes into that knowledge bank, send it along or share it with us or me, because I'm trying to make this course be exactly the sweet spot between where VFR training leaves off and where real flying in VFR begins. And it's really focused on VFR pilots only getting out there and making the most of the certificate, because the reason why we did all this was so that we could fly and go places. Now, the fuel prices are not helping, but when you do, this is going to be a course that will give you a little bit more cross-country confidence. So,
hey, Brian.
Yeah.
What was that website?
MakeSmallCorrections.com.
Thank you.
And it will be linked in the show notes.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review and hit subscribe on your podcast app. And any other final comments from either of you fellas?
No, sir. It's been fun.
Yeah. Great episode.
Great chat tonight.
Yep. Great crowd in the chat tonight. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Tonight's bit of wisdom is really, it came from the AvWeb of truths in aviation. And this one I thought was on my mind for the last flight I took. It says, when a flight is proceeding incredibly well, something was forgotten. Signing off, episode 186 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.